This service is completely unacceptable. Who do you think you are? Get me your manager right now.
I was refilling his water glass when the billionaire called me a monkey in French, not knowing my dead mother had made me fluent before the cancer took her. My name is Iris Bennett, and I've been waiting tables at the Sterling Rose in downtown Los Angeles for 3 years, saving every tip, every extra shift, every penny for medical school. The restaurant sits on the 42nd floor of the Pinnacle Tower, where millionaires eat breakfast and billionaires close deals over dessert. I wore the same black dress every shift, the same fake smile, the same aching feet in shoes I'd glued back together twice. But that night, everything changed. That night, I learned that sometimes the universe waits for the perfect moment to balance the scales, and sometimes that moment arrives when you least expect it, in a language the cruel assume you don't speak. The man's name was Victor Lewis. Everyone knew him. His face was on billboards, magazines, even on the side of buses. Tech genius. Self-made billionaire at 35. Philanthropist, they called him. He owned half the buildings you could see from our windows. And he was sitting at table 7 with 3 other men in suits that cost more than my yearly rent, laughing like they owned the world because they basically did. I approached their table with water, with menus, with that professional smile I'd perfected over countless shifts. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the Sterling Rose. Can I start you off with something to drink? Victor didn't even look up. He was typing on his phone, diamond cufflinks catching the light from the chandelier above. His fingers moved across the screen like he was conducting an orchestra, like every tap was worth $1,000. Maybe to him, it was. We'll have the Chateau Margaux, one of his companions said, the 2015. That's a $4,000 bottle of wine. I wrote it down, hands steady even though my heart was doing backflips. These were the tables that could make or break your night. 20% of $4,000 in wine alone, plus whatever else they ordered, plus maybe they'd be generous, maybe they'd tip extra for good service, maybe I could finally afford to fix my car and stop taking 3 buses to get here. Maybe I could buy new shoes instead of gluing these ones back together for the 4th time. Before we go any further, I have to ask you something. Where are you watching this from right now, and what time is it where you are? Are you in your room late at night, maybe avoiding sleep? In your car on a break? Sitting in a coffee shop trying to avoid going home? I'd love to know. Drop a comment below and tell me. And if you're feeling this story already, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for what happens next. This story is about to take a turn nobody saw coming. What starts as an ordinary night of serving expensive wine is about to become something that will shake this billionaire's entire world. Now back to table 7. I brought the wine, opened it tableside the way I'd been trained, poured a taste for Victor, waited while he went through the ritual. He swirled it, sniffed it like he was searching for secrets in the glass, took a sip. Then he looked at me for the first time all night. His eyes were cold, like blue ice frozen in the middle of winter, and there was something in them I'd seen before, something that made my stomach turn. It was the look of someone who'd never been told no, never been challenged, never been made to feel small. "C'est acceptable," he said to his friends, "not to me, never to me. Mais le service ici devient de plus en plus médiocre." The other men chuckled, that polite, restrained chuckle of men who have learned to laugh at cruelty without making noise. I poured their wine, each glass filled to the exact proper level, smiled, walked away on feet that ached in shoes held together with superglue and hope. Here's what you need to know about me. My father was from Senegal. My mother was from Louisiana. They met at UCLA, fell in love despite everyone telling them it wouldn't work, and had me 1 year later. Dad taught African history at a community college. Mom taught French at a private high school in Santa Monica. She died when I was 16, cancer, but before she left, she made me promise I'd finish what she started. She'd been teaching me French since I was 3 years old. Not just menu French, not just bonjour and merci, real French, literature French, philosophy French, the kind where you can read Voltaire in the original and catch every double meaning, the kind where you can hear a man insult you in a language he thinks is his secret code and understand every single syllable. So when Victor Lewis said, "It's acceptable, but the service here is becoming more and more mediocre," I understood every single word. I understood the dismissal, the contempt, the casual cruelty of men who think their wealth makes them invisible to consequence. I kept my face blank, professional, brought their appetizers 20 minutes later, endured more comments. "Elle est une femme de ménage," one of them said, looking right at me. "She looks like a cleaning lady." "Peut-être qu'elle net, aussi les toilettes après son service," another added, grinning like he'd made the cleverest joke in the world. "Maybe she also cleans the toilets after her shift." They erupted in laughter. Expensive, cultured laughter, the kind that echoes off crystal chandeliers and marble floors and pretends it's sophisticated, the kind that costs $400 for appetizers and thinks that price tag makes it refined. My hands didn't shake when I set down their plates. My voice didn't waver when I asked if they needed anything else. But inside, something was breaking, or maybe it was waking up. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between something dying and something being born. Victor was the worst. He kept going, getting bolder, crueler, like he was testing how far he could push before someone pushed back. When I brought the main courses, 40-ounce ribeyes that cost $300 each, he pretended to examine his plate with exaggerated concern, holding his fork up to the light like he was inspecting a diamond. "Dites-moi," he said to his friends, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "pensez-vous que le singe qui a servi cela sait même si quel port?" Tell me, do you think the monkey who served this even knows what she's carrying? That's when something in me snapped. Not broke, snapped. Like a rope pulled too tight for too long, finally released. Like a dam holding back years of swallowed insults and forced smiles and professional courtesy in the face of casual dehumanization. I set down the last plate with perfect precision, looked Victor Lewis directly in his cold blue eyes, and in perfect, flawless Parisian French, the kind my mother had drilled into me through grammar books and literature and late-night conversations about the beauty of language, I said, "Monsieur, je pense que le singe sait exactement si quel port. Elle porte la dîner de hommes qui ont tellement peur de leur propre médiocrité qu'ils doivent rabaisser une service dans une langue qu'ils supposent qu'elle n'y comprennent pas. C'est pathétique vraiment. Votre argent a peut-être été si rapaz, mais il en a certainement pas été la classe. Et franchement, monsieur, aucune somme d'argent n'y pourra jamais être ce qui vous manque le plus, le simple respect humain." The translation, "Sir, I think the monkey knows exactly what she's carrying. She's carrying dinner for men who are so afraid of their own mediocrity that they have to belittle a waitress in a language they assume she doesn't understand. It's pathetic, really. Your money may have bought this meal, but it certainly didn't buy class. And frankly, sir, no amount of money will ever buy what you lack most, basic human respect." The silence that followed was deafening. Victor's fork stopped midair, a piece of $300 beef suspended in space. His mouth literally fell open, wine-stained teeth visible. The other men froze like someone had pressed pause on their whole existence. At the tables around us, conversations stopped mid-sentence. Silverware stopped clinking. Even the soft jazz playing through the speakers seemed to fade into shocked silence. Victor's face went through several colors, white first, like all the blood had drained straight to his feet, then red, then purple, like someone was inflating a balloon inside his head. His jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping beneath his skin. He started, but I wasn't finished. Not even close. 3 years of swallowed pride were pouring out now, and there was no stopping it. I switched to English, keeping my voice professional, calm, measured. Like I was reciting the dessert menu or explaining the specials. "Your Chateau Margaux was bottled in a year when you were still convincing venture capitalists to fund your first app by lying about your user numbers. I know because my uncle worked at your company then. He was one of the 12 engineers you fired without severance when you pivoted. He lost his house. His wife left him. He spent 6 months sleeping on my father's couch trying to figure out how to feed his kids." Victor stood up so fast his chair fell backward, hitting the floor with a crash that made half the restaurant jump. "How dare you speak to me like? Your ribeye is from a ranch in Montana that you tried to buy last year so you could shut it down and build condos. I continued, my voice never rising, never shaking, just stating facts like I was reading from a report. The owner refused. Her name is Mary. She's 67 years old and has been ranching that land for 40 years. Her grandfather homesteaded it. You sued her for some invented code violation. She countersued. You settled quietly because your lawyers told you you'd lose and the press would make you look bad. You paid her $2 million to go away and signed an NDA so she couldn't tell anyone how you tried to destroy her life's work for profit. Now the entire restaurant was dead silent. Even the kitchen noise had stopped. I could feel 50 pairs of eyes on us, but I didn't look away from Victor's face. I wanted to see every emotion that crossed it. I wanted him to know I was watching. And the wine you're drinking pairs beautifully with beef, which you would know if you'd ever actually studied food instead of just buying expensive things to impress people you secretly hate. The tannins in the margorks cut through the fat in the ribeye, and the dark fruit notes complement the char from the grill. But you wouldn't know that because you don't actually care about food or wine or culture. You just care about the price tag. Victor's hands were fists now, knuckles white with rage. Do you have any idea who I am? A man who uses French to mock a black waitress because you thought you were safe, I said quietly, and somehow the quiet made it cut deeper. A man who thinks money means you can treat people like they're invisible. A man who's about to learn a very expensive lesson about assumptions. I'll have you fired, he hissed, leaning forward, trying to use his height to intimidate me. I'll have this restaurant shut down. I'll destroy your life. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. You'll what? The voice came from behind me, strong and clear. I turned to see James Porter, the restaurant's owner, walking across the dining room. He was a small man, barely 5'6", with grey hair and tired eyes, but he carried himself like someone much bigger. He'd opened the Sterling Rose 23 years ago with money he'd saved working 3 jobs: dishwasher, line cook, and night janitor. He was wearing his usual tired suit, his usual tired expression, the look of a man who'd worked 18-hour days for 2 decades to build something he could be proud of. But his eyes weren't tired now, they were blazing with fury. "Mr. Lewis," James said, positioning himself next to me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched, a united front. "I believe you were threatening my employee." "She insulted me," Victor sputtered, pointing at me like I was a criminal. She responded to insults you made in French, assuming she couldn't understand. James's voice was ice, cold and sharp enough to cut. "I heard every word you said. My wife is from Lyon. I speak French fluently, and I've been standing in the kitchen doorway for the last 15 minutes, listening to you and your friends mock my staff, listening to you call this young woman a monkey, a donkey, a cleaning lady, listening to you laugh about it like it was entertainment." Victor's face went pale again, all that purple rage draining away as fear crept in. "In fact," James continued, pulling out his phone and holding it up so everyone could see the screen was on, "I recorded the whole thing, every slur, every insult, every disgusting comment. Video and audio, crystal clear. I wonder how your shareholders would feel about it. I wonder how the 23 different charities you donate to would feel, especially the ones focused on equality and education. Especially the scholarship fund you started in your mother's name that gives money to underprivileged kids." "You wouldn't dare," Victor whispered, but there was no conviction in it. He was calculating now, running numbers, assessing risks. "Try me." James's smile was sharp, predatory, the smile of a man who'd fought his whole life and knew how to win. "You think you can threaten my restaurant? I've been in this business longer than you've been rich. I've survived recessions, pandemics, and men exactly like you who think money makes them untouchable. I've outlasted bigger threats than you, Mr. Lewis." One of Victor's companions stood up, smoothing his tie nervously. "Gentlemen, perhaps we should." "Sit down, Richard," Victor snapped without looking at him. Then to James, "Name your price." "Excuse me." "Everything has a price." Victor pulled out his wallet, started removing credit cards, black cards, cards I'd never even seen before. "How much to delete that recording and forget this happened? 50,000, 100,000, name it." James laughed, actually laughed, a sound without any humor in it. "Mr. Lewis, my price is that you and your friends leave my restaurant immediately, without paying. because I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you except your absence. And I want you to know that every time you eat out anywhere in this city, you'll wonder if the staff understands what you're saying. You'll wonder if someone's recording. You'll wonder if today is the day your cruelty finally costs you everything. You're kicking me out? Victor looked genuinely shocked, like the concept had never occurred to him in his entire privileged life. I'm refusing service. It's my right as a business owner. And if you're not gone in 60 seconds, I'm posting this video on every social media platform I can find. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'll send it to the Los Angeles Times, the Wall Street Journal, and every tech blog that covers your company. I'll make sure the whole world sees exactly who Victor Lewis really is when he thinks nobody's watching. For a long moment, Victor just stared. You could see the war happening behind his eyes, pride fighting with self-preservation, arrogance battling fear. Then he grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair and stormed toward the elevator, his companions scrambling behind him like confused ducklings following an angry swan. The entire restaurant erupted in applause. People stood up, clapping, cheering, some of them whistling. An older woman at table 12 was crying happy tears. A young couple at table 4 gave me thumbs up. The sommelier started a slow clap from the wine station. I stood there shaking, not from fear but from adrenaline, from shock, from the sheer impossibility of what had just happened. My legs felt weak, like I'd just run a marathon. James turned to me, his expression softening. You okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. If I tried to speak, I might cry, and I didn't want to give Victor Lewis tears he didn't deserve. Good, take the rest of the night off. Paid, actually take tomorrow off too. But, Iris, you just stood up to one of the most powerful men in this city. You deserve a break. Also, remind me to give you a raise. A substantial one. I went to the employee break room on shaking legs and sat down in one of the plastic chairs we'd salvaged from a closed restaurant down the street. My phone was blowing up. Text after text, notification after notification. Apparently, someone in the restaurant had filmed the whole thing and posted it online. Not just James's recording, a customer had captured everything from a different angle, starting from the moment I began speaking French. The video was already going viral. By the next morning, it had 20 million views. By that afternoon, I'd been contacted by 3 news stations, 2 talent agencies, and a lawyer who wanted to represent me for free if Victor tried to sue. The lawyer's name was Jennifer Kim, and she said she'd been waiting years for a chance to take down Victor Lewis. Victor did try to sue for defamation, for harassment, for invasion of privacy, for intentional infliction of emotional distress. His lawyers threw everything they could think of at the wall, hoping something would stick. He lost every single case. The judges weren't impressed by billionaires who called waitresses monkeys and then cried about consequences. But the real story didn't end there. See, I'd done my research on Victor Lewis. After that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I'd said, about my uncle, about all the people men like Victor stepped on while climbing their way up. I kept wondering how many others there were, how many victims, how many lives damaged or destroyed. So I started digging. The internet is an amazing thing when you know how to use it. Public records, court filings, old news articles that had been buried by expensive PR firms. I spent 3 days straight at my laptop, barely eating, surviving on coffee and rage. Turned out Victor's fortune wasn't as self-made as everyone thought. His first company hadn't failed because of market forces. It had failed because he'd embezzled from his investors. He'd settled quietly, paid people off, made them sign NDAs that bound them to silence with threats of financial ruin. His second company, the one that made him billions, had been built on stolen code. He'd hired a developer, a woman named Lisa Kim, who'd created an algorithm for predictive text that could learn individual writing patterns and predict what someone would type before they finished the sentence. Revolutionary technology. She'd shown it to Victor in confidence, believing his promises about partnership and equity. 2 weeks later, she was fired for performance issues. 3 months after that, Victor's company launched a product using her exact code, her exact methodology, her life's work repackaged with his name on it. Lisa had tried to sue. Victor's lawyers had buried her in paperwork, filed motion after motion, dragged the case out for 3 years until she ran out of money and gave up. They'd used every trick in the book, demanding discovery on irrelevant materials, filing frivolous counterclaims, forcing depositions in different states to rack up her travel costs. Legal warfare designed to bankrupt the opponent. I found Lisa. She was working as a barista in San Francisco, still paying off the legal debt 7 years later, living in a studio apartment, riding a bicycle to work, eating ramen most nights. Meanwhile, Victor Lewis flew private jets and bought mansions. I called her from my tiny apartment in Los Angeles, sitting on my second-hand couch, heart pounding. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked after I explained who I was, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "What do you want?" "I don't want anything, but the video of Victor is everywhere. People are finally paying attention. If you want to try again, I think we could get support. I think people would help." There was a long silence. I could hear traffic in the background, the hiss of an espresso machine, someone calling out a drink order. Life continuing while she decided whether to fight again. "I'm tired of fighting," she finally said. "Do you know what it's like to spend 3 years of your life in court, watching everything you saved disappear into lawyer fees, to work 16-hour days trying to afford depositions, to have your friends stop inviting you places because you can never afford to go, to watch the person who stole from you get richer and richer while you get poorer and poorer? I'm tired. I'm broken. I just want to live my life." "I know, but what if you didn't have to fight alone this time?" Another long silence, then quietly, "What did you have in mind?" 2 weeks later, Lisa filed a new lawsuit. This time, she had funding from a legal defense organization that specialized in intellectual property theft. This time, she had Jennifer Kim as her lawyer, the same one who'd offered to represent me for free. This time, she had evidence I'd helped her gather, documentation I'd found in obscure corners of the internet that Victor's PR firm had missed. This time, she had public opinion on her side, riding the wave of anger created by the restaurant video. And this time, she wasn't alone. 12 other people came forward with similar stories: engineers who'd been cheated, business partners who'd been betrayed, employees who'd been fired after refusing to go along with questionable practices, women who'd been harassed and then silenced with NDAs and threats. An entire pattern of behavior spanning 15 years, all documented, all verified, all ready for the world to see. The case took 2 years. Victor fought hard, hired the best lawyers money could buy, threw millions of dollars at the problem, but the evidence was overwhelming. The witnesses were credible, and the jury, when it finally came down to it, consisted of regular people who'd spent their whole lives working for bosses like Victor Lewis. He lost big, lost his company, his reputation, and about $3 billion in settlements and fines. As for me, the restaurant job became something different. James made me manager within a month. The publicity brought in more customers than we could handle. People wanted to eat at the place where the viral video had happened. We had a waitlist 3 months long. We expanded, opened a second location in Santa Monica. James offered me a partnership, 20% equity in both restaurants. I turned it down. "Why?" he asked, genuinely confused. We were sitting in his office, the one with the window overlooking the city, the one he'd worked 23 years to earn. "Because I'm starting medical school in the fall," I told him. "I've got a full scholarship to UCLA, but I appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate you standing up for me when it mattered." He smiled, that tired smile of someone who'd seen too much but still had hope. "Your mom would be proud." I think about that night a lot, about how Victor thought he was untouchable, about how a moment of cruelty became his undoing, about how speaking up, even when you're terrified, can change everything. The video still circulates sometimes. I'll see it pop up on my feed with captions like "Karma is real" or "Never underestimate the quiet ones." People use it in compilations about instant justice, about standing up to bullies, about the power of knowing languages. Some comedian did a whole bit about it on late-night TV. A podcast devoted an entire episode to analyzing what went wrong in Victor's brain that night. But they miss the real point. It wasn't about me speaking French. It was about dignity. It was about refusing to be invisible just because someone with money decided you should be. It was about every person who'd ever been treated like they didn't matter, like they weren't human, like they were just part of the furniture. 6 months after Victor lost his company, I got a letter. It was from him, handwritten, no lawyer's letterhead, no official company letterhead, just plain white paper and blue ink. It said, "You destroyed my life. I hope you're happy." I wrote back, just one sentence, "No, you destroyed your life. I just stopped pretending not to notice." I never heard from him again. Last month, I finished my first year of medical school, top of my class. I work part-time at a free clinic in South Los Angeles, helping people who can't afford regular doctors, people who get overlooked, ignored, dismissed, people who wait in emergency rooms for hours because they don't have insurance, people who ration their medications because they can't afford refills, people who deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be treated like they matter. Because they do matter, everyone matters. Lisa's company just went public. After winning her lawsuit, she used the settlement money to start over, to build the company she'd always dreamed of. She hired other developers who'd been cheated by tech giants, created a workplace culture based on fairness and equity. Her stock opened at $43 a share. She's worth $500 million now. She sent me flowers on my birthday with a note. "Thank you for calling. Thank you for reminding me I wasn't alone." James retired last year and sold both restaurants to his head chef, a woman named Sophie who'd worked her way up from dishwasher. He and his wife moved to Lyon, the city where they'd met 30 years ago. He sends me postcards sometimes. The last one showed a small bistro with outdoor seating and flower boxes. The caption said, "The food is excellent, the wine is better, the people are kind, no billionaires." As for Victor, I heard he's working as a consultant now, making decent money but nothing like before. He lost his mansion in Malibu, his penthouse in Manhattan, his cottage in the Hamptons. He sold his art collection, his car collection, his watch collection. Someone told me they saw him flying commercial once, middle seat in coach, squeezed between two large passengers, eating pretzels from a tiny package. I try not to take pleasure in that. I really do. My mother always taught me that revenge was poison, that holding onto anger hurt you more than it hurt the other person. But I'm only human, and sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, when I'm studying for an exam or memorizing drug interactions or trying to understand the Krebs cycle, I think about Victor Lewis in that middle seat. I think about him eating those pretzels, and I smile. The thing is, that night changed more than just my life or Victor's life. It changed how I see the world. Before, I thought you had to accept mistreatment if it came from someone powerful. I thought survival meant keeping your head down, swallowing your pride, smiling through the pain. I thought the only way to make it was to endure, to outlast, to wait for things to get better. Now I know different. Now I know that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to play along with someone else's cruelty. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to be invisible. I still remember the weight of that moment, standing in that expensive restaurant in my glued-together shoes, looking into Victor Lewis's eyes and choosing to speak, choosing to be seen, choosing to matter. Not because I thought I'd win, not because I thought it would go viral or change anything, not because I had some master plan, but because staying silent felt like dying a little bit. And I'd already lost my mother. I'd already buried the person who taught me that language was power, that dignity was worth fighting for, that nobody could make you small unless you agreed to shrink. I wasn't about to lose myself too. So here's what I want you to know, whoever you are, wherever you're watching this, you're not invisible. You're not less than anyone else because they have more money or more power or more of whatever society says matters. Your voice matters, your dignity matters, you matter. And if someone tries to make you feel small, tries to mock you in a language they think you don't understand, tries to treat you like you're not even human, speak up. Use whatever language you need. Use whatever strength you have. Use whatever your mother taught you before she died, whatever your father showed you, whatever you learned in the hard years when nobody was watching. Because the world doesn't change when people like Victor Lewis decide to be better. It changes when people like you and me decide we deserve better. That restaurant table, that moment, that choice, it wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of medical school, of the free clinic, of learning to help people who need help. The beginning of understanding that standing up for yourself opens doors you didn't know existed. The beginning of everything that came after. And your beginning is waiting for you too. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's the next time someone makes you feel less than what you are. Maybe it's the next time someone assumes you don't understand, assumes you don't matter, assumes you won't fight back. When that moment comes, I hope you remember this story. I hope you remember that a waitress in Los Angeles once looked a billionaire in the eye and refused to be invisible. I hope you remember that speaking up is terrifying and necessary and powerful. I hope you remember that you can do the same. Moral lessons of this story teaches us that standing up for your dignity is never wrong, even when facing someone more powerful than you. The strength to speak truth comes from knowing your own worth, not from matching someone else's wealth. Assumptions about others based on their job or appearance reveal more about the person making them than the person being judged. Every skill you possess, including languages your parents taught you, can become a tool for justice when you need it most. Cruelty always contains the seeds of its own destruction because eventually someone will refuse to accept it. True power lies not in money or status, but in treating others with basic human respect. The people you dismiss today might be the ones who change your life tomorrow, for better or worse. Speaking up creates ripples that can help others find their voice and seek their own justice. Your past struggles and sacrifices, like learning French from a dying mother, are never wasted because they prepare you for moments you cannot predict. Real character shows not in how you treat people who can help you, but in how you treat people you think cannot hurt you. Before I finish, I want to hear from you again. Did this story hit home? Have you ever been in a situation where you had to stand up for yourself against someone who thought they were better than you? Have you ever been underestimated because of your job, your appearance, your background? Share your story in the comments. Tell me what happened. Tell me how you fought back or how you wish you had. And if this video meant something to you, if it made you feel something, please share it. Someone in your life needs to hear this. Your friend who's struggling at work, your sister who's dealing with a terrible boss, your cousin who keeps getting talked down to. Share this with them. Let them know they're not alone. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next story, because there are more stories like this out there. More moments of courage, more underdogs who won, more proof that kindness and dignity will always matter more than money. More proof that the universe keeps score even when we think it doesn't. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. Thank you for believing that stories like this matter, that regular people standing up to powerful people matters, that dignity and respect and basic human decency matter. Because they do, and so do you. Never forget that.